Is it possible for him to get worse? Is it possible for him to throw more interceptions because we only have 1 year of a track record? Hello and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks. I'm Jason, he's Vaz, and today we are continuing on with our series of debates between two players at their particular positions that we are higher or lower on. And today we're comparing a couple of quarterbacks in CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts. I think we've both got these guys around the same tier, but Vaz has Stroud higher and I have Hurts higher. This is for a 12-team Dynasty SuperFlex. So Vaz, why do you like Stroud more than Hurts? And it's not. And what is the difference? Do you see it as a huge difference or a small difference?
Not a huge difference, but it's significant enough. Like they're not in the same tier for me. I have Stroud in my second tier of quarterbacks, and then I have Hurts in my third tier, at the bottom of my third tier. So it's pretty significant. Like value wise, like almost like a late first in terms of value to move from Hurts to Stroud, in my opinion. Listen, like I don't know if I've mentioned this enough, but I'm pretty risk adverse early in drafts, and I know Hurts is has been very, very, very productive, like a league winner at quarterback. But at the same time, I know that he comes with a little bit more risk than Stroud does. I think Stroud is the next like elite quarterback, like the next poster boy for the NFL. You know, his arm talent is immense, and he looked the part. So, and then in comparison, I think Hurts's arm talent isn't that great. I think he's like an average to below average NFL passer. And I think he's got all this production and he's done all of this fantasy production with his legs, you know, and I'm a little bit worried if like the tush push ceases to being effective. I'm a little bit worried if his production might decline because he's so reliant on those goal line touchdowns, right? And then even bringing in Saquon, is he going to steal some of those? I'm not sure. Losing Kelsey might affect it as well, right? So that's a part of it. And then another part of it is like, it's not age, like Stroud is 3 years younger, but it's not age because Hurts is very young, but it's the fact that I'm a little bit worried that, Hurts might not have the longevity. Like Hurts's game might start to slip around age 30. I'm worried about that. Like when he's not as effective as a runner, his game might start to slip because listen, he's been surrounded by immense talent, like a number one offensive line, the best receiving core in football. Like he's surrounded by immense talent. Okay. That's not going to be there forever. And I think at this stage last year, I had him higher because he really like shocked me with his performance in the Super Bowl. His performance in the Super Bowl was amazing. So like I elevated him because I thought his arm talent was actually better than I thought it was. But like this past season, he threw more than one touchdown in let's see here. In only 7 of 18 games. Okay. In 11 of 18 games, he had one passing touchdown or less.
Like but he had 15 rushing touchdowns.
Oh, I
15.
know. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why he's been so, he was a quarterback too overall, right?
Yeah.
Like I know he's been immensely productive and listen, if I have a very competitive roster and I'm going for a championship, then CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts are about equal for me. But like, just from a startup perspective, I'm definitely going Stroud way over Hurts because like I just feel so much more secure in that pick. I know he's going to be my quarterback one for the next 15 years, whereas like I'm a little bit worried that Hurts might fall off a cliff in 5 years. That's basically it. It's about security.
Okay, so my answer to that last part of what you said would be this. Don't look too far ahead. Okay, like I don't like to look at players and say like, will this guy still be good in 10 years or 15 years? I want to own like production for 15 years out of this guy, 10 years. Hey, I'm looking 5 years in advance, and anything beyond that to me is a bonus. And if I'm looking over the next 5 years, then to me, Hurts is actually more reliable. I think, like you said, Stroud becomes more the question mark because with him, he's thrown one good season, right? It's a rookie season. He had a great season by all means. It wasn't like top 5, but it was legitimate. Hey, this guy might have a future. Now, I think that is more risky because, hey, maybe he goes through a sophomore jinx. Maybe people watch the tape on him a little bit better, and defenses become a little bit smarter on setting him up for failure in terms of how they jump certain routes on his tendencies that they watch on film. There's a lot of other things that can happen in terms of a quarterback's adjustment from his first year to his second year. What we do know about Jalen Hurts is he scores a lot of touchdowns when he rushes. And obviously, a lot of that is the tush push. And everything that you said about that, I fully agree. Can Saquon Barkley perhaps take some of those tush push touchdowns away? Absolutely. It might happen. Does Jason Kelsey being gone affect that? Absolutely. Maybe it does. But we don't know that yet. And he had 15 rushing touchdowns last year, 13 the year before, 10 the year before that. Even if he only scores 10, the low of his last 3 years, even if he only scores 10 with his feet, I'm okay with that. You're talking about a guy that still throws for 23, 22 touchdowns on top of that, and he's got two of the best weapons. Is it the weapons that make him a better passer? Yeah, I agree with that too. Probably is. Is Stroud a better passer than Hurts? Sure, absolutely. But we don't know what kind of regression he might have. Can Stroud even become better? Absolutely. I think it's possible, especially with Diggs there now. Certainly a possibility. But is it possible for him to get worse? Is it possible for him to throw more interceptions because we only have 1 year of a track record? I think that's possible as well. But what we do know is Hurts has been QB2 and QB3 the last 2 seasons. And based on that, I think that's something that you can take to the bank. Rushing touchdowns, rushing ability. I think Saquon Barkley being there will only help his rushing numbers. Maybe not the tush push, but at the same time, you got one more guy in the box covering on Saquon, then maybe that's a better opportunity for Hurts to be able to take the ball the other way, because they have not had a running back to that talent level as of yet. So I think it offsets in different ways, and I think Hurts is legitimately a top 4, top 5 quarterback.
Now, I can't do it for you. The inches we need are everywhere around us. What are you gonna do?
Like! Subscribe!
Listen, everything you said, I agree with. And the fact that the biggest takeaway for me there was the fact that you say, like, you only look 5 years down the road, and that's perfectly fine. Like, that's perfectly fine. It's just in the first round of a dynasty startup, I want more security. I want to look 10 years down the road, because in 4 years' time, I want a more valuable piece. And I think Stroud and Hurts can give you similar production over that span. So 4 or 5 years from now, I want that quarterback that's going to be worth a ton more. And I think Hurts is just Stroud is just much more secure than Hurts.
You're basing that on 1 year. You're basing that on 1 year of production. I mean, like, a lot of people can have one good year and then disappear after that. Look at Carson Wentz. Had basically one good year. He was on MVP pace, and then after that he disappeared. So it can happen where I want a bigger track record than 1 year. I know a lot of people in fantasy football communities for dynasty leagues, they look at that 1 year guy. Puka Nacua is another great example of that. One good year, and all of a sudden, let's jump on him before the value goes even higher next year. Whereas I'm kind of more, to me, I'm more risk adverse, and I want to see more than just 1 year in ideal situations.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But listen, I mean, like, for me, I'm going to trust my eyes here. What I saw was just an elite player, an elite talent at quarterback, like immense arm talent, and enough like talent around him too that he's going to succeed. Sure, like, defenses are going to smarten up, but he plays in a really weak division, so I'm not so worried about that. He'll probably throw a few more interceptions. I think he was a little bit lucky last year to have like a stretch of like 8 or 9 games without throwing an interception, but I also think he'll throw more touchdowns. So I'm not so worried about like a second year regression. They've also improved the receiving options around him. Like, he was throwing to Noah Brown last year at one point. So yeah, I'm not worried about that. But I am a little bit worried about Hurts' career. I think he could have like a Cam Newton type slide in his early 30s, because he doesn't have that immense arm talent. It does worry me that, he only threw for He threw 0 or 1 touchdowns in the majorities of his games last year. So
but
like
it's because he's rushing those in from the 1 or 2. So like
you're
a guy
not
like
wrong.
A guy like Stroud that might be throwing that touchdown, he's just taking it in him. Like you've got for that number, you've got to combine the rushing to the passing and look at the total touchdowns because.
But Jason, how much is that? How much is that on Hurts, or is that how much is that on his number 1 overall ranked offensive line?
No. I fully agree, but that situation, it goes with what it is. It is what it is. But
is that going to be the same in 3 years? Is that guaranteed to be the same in 3 years?
Well, maybe. I mean,
I
don't know.
Their left tackle is like pretty old. They just lost their center.
I agree with losing Kelsey. Yes, I do agree with that. I think it is significant. And maybe you're right. And I do agree that he might go the Cam Newton route. Like, is that a concern? Yes. Okay. I'll agree that there is a possibility of that. But like I said, there's also a possibility of CJ Stroud, having had one good year and maybe he goes the way of Carson Wentz for all we know.
I don't think Carson Wentz is possible. I think Herbert is a little bit possible if the weapons decline and like the situation changes. But I don't Carson Wentz, that's too extreme an example.
Okay, yeah, I know that. but it sounds good for my argument. All right, any final points on any of this?
Nope, I think we covered it. Just
there you go.
Let the viewers please decide and give their feedback in the comments.
Yeah, write it down in the comments below. Who do you think is right? Who would you rather have, Jalen Hurts or CJ Stroud for a dynasty team? Let us know, and remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And also join our Facebook group. I'll leave the link to that in the descriptions below. Thanks for watching this till the end, and join us next time for another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks.